Shalom Israel. Welcome again to Watchmen of the Faith Ministries. My name is Kasada Bar. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue with another important topic. Well, actually, it's the same topic, but I'm going to be moving to another scripture to prove that we're not talking about putting a hole in your turban. Okay, this is some myth that a lot of brothers had brought out back in the early days when this whole thing started. Okay, again, there is no scripture proven to me or to the nation of Israel that there has to be a hole in the turban. It's a myth, just like Santa Claus coming down the chimney is a myth, just like reindeers fly is a myth, just like Easter eggs, like bunny rabbits lay eggs. It's all a myth. It cannot be found and is not documented in the scriptures that that Aaron and his sons, and plus us, the nation of Israel, when we wore turbans or keepers, that there had to be a hole in the middle of it. And if you didn't have that hole in the middle of it, you were disrespecting your head. And we all know that the head of the man is the Messiah. So what I'm going to do now is go on with the next topic and hopefully just put the icing on this cake with this whole thing about head covering is 1 Corinthians 11th chapter. So the title of this show is going to be called The Misunderstanding of 1 Corinthians the 11th chapter. All right. And what I'm going to be doing now as I go through 1 Corinthians 11th chapter, I'm going to be using the book of Bereshit. Okay, I'm going to be going back and forth, okay, trying to show a parallel between what's going on in Genesis and what's going on in the book of Corinthians, the 11th chapter, the first verse. All right, now let's begin and understand what's going on here. First of all, there's a situation that's going on in Corinth, all right? And Paul is here to settle this big dispute that's going on amongst the church in Corinth. Now, we have to understand now that there was brothers who was calling themselves after Peter. There was some brothers calling themselves after Paul, and there was some brothers calling themselves after Apollo. Now, Paul came to, again, settle this big dispute that was going on in Corinth. Now, what I see what's happening now is that when a lot of us read the scriptures, we're not understanding that there's a message within inside the message. So we're now, and at a lot of times, looking at the scriptures from a Greco-Roman perspective. And if you try to read the scriptures from a Greco-Roman perspective, you're going to miss the point. And what's going to happen after that, you're going to lead brothers and sisters astray. The only way you can get a clear understanding of what's going on in the scripture is to read it from a Hebraic perspective. That's the only way. Okay? Give back this whole Christian, Roman, Greco, Catholicism way of thinking. Give it back to the enemy. We are Hebrews, and we're going to look at this Bible from a Hebraic perspective, and we have laws, statutes, and commandments, and we also have a culture. That's very, very important for us to understand. Now, okay, we're going to jump right into it. 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter. Now, this is Shaul. Shaul is saying, "Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of the Messiah." So what is this saying here? Paul is a follower of the Messiah. And he's asking brothers now to follow him because he follows the Messiah. Now, we already understand that the Messiah did not come to change any laws. No laws. Paul didn't come to change any laws. Paul is not setting up a different religion, and he's not coming to terminate anything that the Messiah spoke about. We're talking about head covering here. Men wore head covering. The Messiah didn't come to do away with the law. Paul didn't come to set up a new religion called Christianity. Paul is, or Shaul is, a follower of the Messiah. And Paul told us this in Acts the 15th chapter because there was a rumor being spread that Paul was talking about changing the customs of the fathers. And Paul took an oath. He took a Nazarene oath, a vow, that he was not, okay, by under the order of the brother of the Messiah, James, that he was not trying to change the traditions, the culture, the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Messiah. Paul said he wasn't doing it. Okay, so get off this kick, all right, that Paul is talking about a head covering. He's not talking about a head covering here in Corinthians, the 11th chapter. And we're going to go ahead and get into the meat of this. Now, Paul is saying, or Shaul is saying, be ye followers of me, even as I also am of the Messiah. Now, I pray you, brethren, that you remember me, which is Shaul, in all things, and keep the ordinances or the traditions as I deliver them to you. But, why is Shaul saying but? Because Shaul is saying here now, be ye followers of me. But Shaul at the same time wants it understood that I'm not your head. Okay? It's very important that we understand that. The reason why the but is there, B-U-T, the word but is a conjunction. And Shaul is saying, but I will have you know that the head of every man is the Messiah. Not Shaul. Shaul is saying, be ye followers of me because I follow the Messiah. But I will have you know that the head of every man is the Messiah. Now, with that understanding, what I decided to do, okay, is to now see where we're at in the scriptures where we see the first authoritative figure, which is the Messiah, giving a commandment to the man, letting the man know that he was his covering. So what we do now is that we go to the book of Bereshit, and we're going to go to, bear with me for a moment here, we're going to go to the book of Bereshit, the 2nd chapter, let's start at the 15th verse. Okay? Bereshit, which is the book of Genesis, 2:15. And the Messiah took the man, which is Adam, okay, and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. So this is the role of the man. The man was to keep, and the word keep is the Hebrew word shamar. So Adam's role, his position was to keep the garden. This commandment, or this role or this position was given to Adam by the Messiah. All right. So this makes the Messiah, okay, the head of the man, because the Messiah is giving the man a responsibility, and his responsibility is to keep, to guard the garden. All right. So now, when we go back to now, 1 Corinthians 11th chapter, when Shaul is saying, but I will have you know that the head of every man is the Messiah, right here in the book of Bereshit 2:15, it says, and the Messiah took the man, which is Adam, and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. Verse 16, and the Messiah commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely. Now, what does that mean? What I found interesting here is that the Messiah gave the man who was in submission to him a commandment. A commandment are rules and regulations on how to keep the garden. The man is in subjection to the Messiah. The Messiah, okay, is the authoritative figure. The man is underneath the Messiah. So we see the first chain of command here. It's the Messiah, then there's the man. Okay, so when the Messiah gave the man this commandment, okay, which is a contract, which is an agreement, which is a marriage, which happens between two individuals. And these two particular individuals here is the Messiah and the man. So right here in verses 15 and 16, the Messiah and the man are now in covenant relationship. So the only thing that the man has to do now is understand the terms and the conditions of the agreement or the marriage. Okay? Now, verse 16 again. And the Messiah commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. This is the same thing that happened in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, when the Messiah gave the nation of Israel laws, statutes, and commandments. The Messiah is telling the nation of Israel in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, choose life. I set before you this day blessings and cursings. It's the same thing, that's going on here when the Messiah is talking to the man, the bride. Okay, listen. I set before you this day the tree of life, good and evil. Obey the laws, statutes, and commandments. Obey the terms, the agreement of the contract, and you shall live. But if you disobey me, this is going to be the repercussions of your actions. You shall surely die. Okay? Again, this is talking about the chain of command. Now I'm going to go back now to 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter. Shaul is saying, but I will have you know that the head of every man is the Messiah, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of the Messiah is the Father. So we have a chain of command again. The Messiah, the man, and the woman. So who's the man's covering? The man's covering is the Messiah. Who's the woman's covering? The woman's covering is the man. That's the chain of command. I'm going to say it one more time. We have the Messiah, we have the man, and we have the woman. Now, let's go back to the book of Bereshit, and let's read the 18th verse, 2:18. And the Messiah said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a help meet for him. I'm going to make him a companion. And this companion is going to be in subjection to him. He's going to be the woman's covering. Just the way that the Messiah is my covering. And every man's covering. Because the first marriage agreement happened between the Messiah and the man. The Messiah then brought forth a woman. And this woman was to be in subjection to the man. The way that the man is in subjection to the Messiah. This is about a family. This is the reason why I did a series before called Israel, Yasha Allah is a community. We are responsible for one another, and it was Adam's responsibility, okay, to teach Eve, all right, all of the laws, statutes, and commandments that the Messiah gave him to keep, to help him guard, which is Shamar, the garden. That was her role and her position, okay, being a helpmeet or mate for Adam. I'm going to read it again. 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter, the 3rd verse. But I will have you know that the head of every man is the Messiah. So who's the man's head? The man's head is the Messiah. And the head of the woman is the man. So the woman, okay, is in subjection to the man. And the head of the Messiah is the Father. The Father, the Son, the man, the woman. That's the chain of command. Now, let's go to 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter, so we can bring out some more clarity in this here. 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter, I'm going to read the first verse. Likewise, you wives, be in subjection to your own husbands. All right, which is very important. The man, again, is in subjection to the Messiah, and the woman is in subjection to her husband. Now, again, there's a lot of brothers out here who call themselves high priests when the Messiah is the high priest. Now, no man is supposed to be holding a private counsel with your wife. Your wife is in subjection to you. No man should be calling for a private counsel with your woman. Okay? You have the authorship over your woman. She's in subjection to you. I have no rights, no power over your woman. That was given to you. Okay? If ever there's a counsel, okay, made with your woman, make sure you're there, because you want to make sure now that there's no erroneous information being delivered to your woman who's in subjection to you. Because you don't want your woman coming home now, all right, interrupting what you already set up. Okay? Instructions was given to Adam, and Adam was supposed to give these instructions to his woman. Okay, with that, I'm going to have to stop and say,